Hello and welcome to Salome's Writer Therapy, where you and your writing connect. The end of 2023 is just a few days away, and man, I just can't believe how fast this year has gone by. So, today, I just want to have a chat about this past year, your expectations, your wins, and the not yet wins. I'm not going to call them fails because fails is such an ugly word. And also, how you can go into 2024 with confidence, joy, and connection. So grab your favorite beverage and a cozy spot and let's get to it. So I didn't usually like this time of year. The time of year when you sit down and you reflect and you review. The setting up the next year part was always fun because I love to plan and I love to organize. But following through on my plans never seemed to work. So I kind of hated to sit down and reflect or review what's happened in the past because every time I did that, I was very disappointed with the results that I got. And I didn't know how to move forward so that I actually can accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. That has all changed because I have found a way to reflect and review in a way that isn't daunting for me, that doesn't take a questionnaire or costs me an entire weekend or longer just to reflect and review the things that's happened in the past year. So that's basically what I wanted to talk to you about today. I want to first go into how I reflect and review on what's happened, and in this case, it's in 2023, and how we can take that and move into 2024. So I am not going to give you a big list of questions to answer. In fact, you don't have to write anything down if you don't want to. These are just things that I want you to think about or to contemplate. And I mean, you can do that while you're in the shower or while you're doing the dishes because it's not very complicated, or at least it's not supposed to be very complicated. And the other thing is, I have never been the kind of person who tracks things very well. So to sit down at the end of December and trying to remember what happened in February is kind of impossible because I'm not the tracker kind of person. So I needed to find a way to focus my thoughts and to reflect and review on what's happened in the past year without having to stress about being a kind of person who doesn't track things. Because every time I've tried to track my work days or my progress on my projects, I just can't seem to stick with it. So I needed to find a way to assess my planning and my progress in a way that works for me and will still allow me to make changes and tweaks if I need to moving into the next year. So I'm going to share with you my process and how I do it, and I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. But if anything of this is confusing, please let me know in the comments below. I am absolutely here to help you. So the first thing I like to do when I am in the reflection and review mode at the end of the year, I start with the big ticket projects that I've either completed as I planned or that I didn't quite hit the target on. And here, you don't have to go through all of your projects. Even just one win and one not yet win will be enough, because the point is not to get overwhelmed with the amounts of review and reflection that needs to happen. So I start with the big ticket projects that I have completed the way that I planned, or a project where I didn't quite complete it the way that I planned or didn't complete it at all. Then what I do is I take that project and I think about what went wrong or what went right. And if you can, also note the circumstances surrounding it. And hopefully, because it's a big ticket project, it's something that will be top level in your mind. You don't have to go dig around for it. The things that I want you to consider here when I'm talking about the circumstances surrounding it is, how did you feel about doing the project, about the day-to-day when you had to work on this project? How did it feel? Also, what drove or motivated you to do the project, or what stood in the way of you doing the project? And that's basically the pain points that you experienced when you were working on the project, or the pain points that you overcame when you completed the project. You want to know these things because these are the things that you want to try and duplicate as you go forward. So the nice thing about doing it this way is that you will be able to see the overlaps or the recurring patterns, because our plans and our projects are almost always connected to some other part of our lives, whether it's our careers, our relationships, health, our home life, etc. And those parts of our lives affect our projects because of that connection. It works like a loop. Your projects and plans affect the other parts of your life, and the other parts of your life affects your projects and plans in turn. Now, you will begin to see what things and circumstances played a part in your wins or your not yet wins, which will help you to see what you need to keep doing in 2024 or what you need to tweak. you will also notice that sometimes it's the same thing because of that loop. So if you have more than one project that you're looking at, then you will see there's some kind of overlap, or it might not be exactly the same thing, but it feels the same. It's in the same family, I want to say. Now, here are some examples. Did your project suffer because you didn't have all the knowledge or the skills to complete them? Then you might want to invest into learning or developing your skills. Or maybe your projects suffered because you were exhausted taking care of your family and your full-time job. Then you might have to consider putting less on your plate or setting clearer boundaries if that's possible. Let's look at circumstances around your not yet wins that might have contributed to how they ended up. You might have felt overwhelmed, dejected, or frustrated. Or you might have been motivated by something that doesn't really matter to you. Or you might have struggled with a lack of resources or with constant distractions. Now, the same principle applies to all your wins. If you can have an idea of which things and circumstances provided those wins for you, then you'd want to stack them in 2024 to give yourself the best shot at doing the things that you want to do. Now, the point of this exercise isn't to give you a list of things to avoid or things to do in capital letters, but also to lean into how you were affected by those things, because you do not live in a vacuum. And I always say in my episodes, everything is connected. So how you are affected by the things that happened and the circumstances surrounding your projects will have a ripple effect on other parts of your life, whether it's good or bad. Now, I know it is sometimes very difficult to juggle all the things that you think you need to do to live a balanced or happy life. But the thing is, it's easier than you think. And note here that I said easier, not quicker. If you can look at your life and everything that you want to do as a closed system where everything is connected, then you will see that once you address one thing, that ripple effect will kick in and make it so much easier to take on the next thing. Because if you complete that first thing, the results will already have had an impact on the second thing. Even if it's not an obvious impact, but because of that connection, it will make the second thing to complete a lot easier because you've already done one thing that's connected to it. And that's basically my advice as we're heading into 2024. Find the connections and then take one thing and shift it to where you want it to be, and keep those connections in mind while you're doing it. What I mean by that is, let's say you want to finish writing your story. Now, what is connected to that? Why do you want to do it? Do you want to sell the book so that you can quit your day job? Now, why do you want to quit your day job? Maybe you feel uninspired in your work, or you're bored most of the time. And what inspires you or energizes you? Reading stories? So you want to write a story. Do you see the connections there? Now, I'm not saying if you work on one thing that it will automatically fix everything, because that's not how life works. But if you are honest about the connections between the parts of your life and also the projects and the plans that you have for 2024 and where they actually come from, then those connections will be very clear to you. But as I say, you do need to be honest with yourself. And that is basically what this whole exercise unearths at the end of the day. Why these things actually matter to you, or why they are important. And I know there are some things that we need to do because that is our responsibilities, right? But even in those instances, you are still motivated to do something, even if it's a responsibility, and you are motivated to do it for some kind of reason. So you want to do it because the reason you feel responsible is, I almost want to say, good enough to make it worth it, right? If you are looking at what you want to do in 2024, how you can change or shift how you did things in 2023 to make 2024 better, then start with finding those connections. Start with seeing which of those things that you want to do has the biggest ripple effect, if you can. That thing that is connected to a lot of things, and see if you can change that. If it's like eating healthier doesn't only have an effect on your health, it has an effect on your energy, on your sleep schedule, on your relationships, on your productivity. It has this huge ripple effect. So if you can, in 2024, look at how you can eat healthier, then all those other things will be affected by it. If you want to finish your story because it makes you happy and it's a creative outlet and it's a hobby and you love it and all those kinds of things, then you feel great and you're energized, and that in turn affects your relationships and your sleep and all those other things. You see what I'm saying with the connections? So think of things that you can do that takes advantage of the connections that you have in your life, and see how you can stack those things and circumstances that we talked about. See how you can stack those things together in 2024 to make that one thing happen, to address that one thing. Okay, so the last thing that I just want to quickly mention is about joy. Try and lead with joy. Lean into the things that makes you smile, makes you happy, gives you energy, makes you feel good about yourself. And once again, that will have this ripple effect into other parts of your life. So that is why, and if you've listened to any of my other episodes until the end, then you will realize I say this every time: write with joy and stay connected. And it's not just in writing, it's in life as well. If you can be joyfully connected to yourself, to your plans, to the people around you, then every day will be so much easier to navigate. I'm not saying it will be easy, but if your default position, if I could call it that, is joyful connection, then it will be so much more rewarding when things fall into place. There's this thing where you give what you get, right? You smile at someone, they smile back. You're kind to someone, they're kind to you. And it's the same with how we step into our days and step into our plans and step into 2024. So if you can step into 2024 from a default position of joyful connection, then that is what you will get back. That is what you will receive, not just from the people around you, but from the different parts of your life and from the projects that you're working on. Because if you can hold on to those connections and nourish the connections that you have with yourself, with your dreams, with your plans, and with your people, and you do it with joy, then that is what you will get back. Your plans will work out. Your people will show up. So, as I said, my advice heading into 2024 is to find the connections, take one thing and shift it where you want to be. The second thing that I want you to do going into 2024 is to think about getting to that default position of joyful connection. And if you lean into your true self, who you really are, what you really truly want, if you are honest with yourself when you're thinking about those connections and they are very clear, then you will see that you are already so much more joyful, because you are kind of getting to the center of yourself. And that's where the true happiness lies, is if you live your life in alignment to who you are. So joy and connection. That is why, and I know there are people that don't really think about this, but that is why my phrase for 2024 is joyful connection, because that is what I want to lead with in my life. So I really hope you found inspiration and motivation in this episode. And I would actually really, really love it if you would share your own reflection and review methods in the comments below, because I'm quite interested to see what you do to gear yourself up for the new year. And if you found this episode helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell. But that's it for today's episode. Now, I wish you have a wonderful new year and that your 2024 will be exactly how you dream it to be. So, until next time, may your creativity flow freely and your fingers dance upon the keys. Keep writing with joy and stay connected. Cheers.